Hi, and welcome to this introduction on why you should never waste a good crisis. In 1991, I was a house painter, and one day I started coughing. And before I knew it, I had 40 degrees fever and a double lung infection. And when after 2 weeks I could finally get out of bed, I had totally no more energy. It took me 4 months to recover, and after 4 months I could go back to work, but I had no single job anymore. It's a minor crisis, you could say. So I decided to take the first job, the first company that would hire me. I would take the job. And this company, they sold computers. Well, in that time I have seen computers, but I couldn't see the difference between the front or the back. Anyway, I went into telephone sales. So despite my lack of knowledge about computers, the selling went well. But what didn't go well was the delivery to the consumers of these computers. There were some order forms, but they were not in sequence. It was a total mess. It was a very young company, but it was really a total mess. In other words, also a minor crisis. So one day, without consulting anybody, I took all these forms home and I put them on sequence in the evening. So the next day, I came back to the office with 4 bags full of paper on sequence. And just when I came in, the owner of the company was there. He said, "What's in those bags?" At that moment, his wife came also standing there. So I explained him what I did. And before I could end my story, his wife was also a manager over there. And she got quite angry. Why? She said, "How could I do that without consulting anybody?" Another minor crisis. The owner of the company reacted differently. He could really appreciate the effort and initiative I took. And he asked me even if I didn't want to become head of logistics. Well, I couldn't spell that word, but it sounded like fun. So from that moment on, I was head of logistics. The consequence of that was that I had to work 7 days a week, sometimes 6, from 7 in the morning until 10 in the evening. It was really hard work because there's so much things to do. It was such a mess in this young company. So because I also worked in the weekends, I could see how the owner creates all his advertisements with one designer on the latest Mac. And in that time I already could draw and paint a little bit, and I occasionally make an advertisement on paper. So I was very curious how that process worked. So after a lot of practicing on the computer, and with the help of that designer, I could come a long way. And then one day, the designer went ill, but the advertisement still had to be made. So with a lot of suffering and a lot of errors and mistakes, I could make my first advertisement. And that resulted that on the same day, I was head of logistics and I was head of marketing, and the designer didn't have a job anymore. Now after 2 years, I knew what a computer was. I knew how to make advertisement on a Macintosh. I knew something about logistics. And because many times in the weekends I had conversations with the owner, so I realized more and more, I understood more and more what it is to set up a new company and how to run a company. So one day I ran into an argument with the owner. It was about the content of an advertisement. He didn't want to lie, but he also didn't want to tell the whole truth. And I thought, that's not fair. You can't cheat the customer. You have to be honest. That resulted that the next day I didn't have a job anymore. Again, a minor crisis, you could say. So I started to paint houses again. But I couldn't find the passion anymore. So after a year, a little bit more, I started my own advertising agency. Within a few years, it grew into a multi-million-dollar company, operating worldwide with offices in 3 countries and 120 employees. So I believe, never waste a good crisis. Being in your comfort zone makes you lazy and inconvenient. Experience crisis means you have to innovate, make the next step. I also believe that everybody can become an entrepreneur. It's only a mindset. And that's why I create a lot of movies to give you a direction, what you could do and how you could think. Also you can become an entrepreneur, because it's never too late to start your own company. Be you, be optimistic, and keep on learning.